A Course in Miracles, Chapter 1, Introduction to Miracles. Principles of Miracles. 1. There is no order of difficulty among miracles. One miracle is not, quote, harder or, quote, bigger than another miracle. Miracles are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. Miracles as such don't matter. The only thing that matters is the miracle's source, which is far beyond human evaluation. 3. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires the miracle. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. 4. All miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. God's voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. 5. Miracles are habits, and miracles should be involuntary. Miracles should not be under conscious control, because consciously selected miracles can be misguided. 6. Miracles are natural. When miracles do not occur, something has gone wrong. 7. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Miracles are a form of healing. Miracles supply a lack, and miracles are performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. Miracles are a kind of exchange. And like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws, as the miracles bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. 10. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is wrong, or better, a misunderstanding of miracles' purpose. Miracles are really used for and by believers. 11. Prayer is the medium of miracles. Prayer is the natural communication of the created with the Creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. 12. Miracles are thoughts. Thoughts can represent lower order or higher order reality. And this is the basic distinction between intellectualizing and thinking. One makes the physical, and the other creates the spiritual. And we believe in what we make or create, the physical or the spiritual, with our thoughts. 13. Miracles are both beginnings and endings. Miracles thus alter the temporal order. Miracles are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back, but really go forward. Miracles undo the past in the present and thus release the future. 14. Miracles bear witness to truth. Miracles are convincing because miracles arise from conviction. Without conviction, miracles deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather, the uncreative use of mind. Each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable man to learn to use time constructively. Time is thus a teaching device, and time is a means to an end. And time will cease when time is no longer useful in facilitating learning. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating that it is more blessed to give than to receive. Miracles simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. (17) Miracles are the transcendence of the body. Miracles are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from a sense of lower order reality. And that is why miracles heal. (18) A miracle is a service. A miracle is the maximal service one individual can render another. A miracle is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. The doer of the miracle recognizes their own and their neighbor's inestimable worth simultaneously. 19. Miracles make souls one in love. Miracles depend on cooperation because the family of God is the sum of all the souls God created. Miracles, therefore, rest on the laws of eternity, not of time. (20) Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. The awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. (21) Miracles are natural expressions of total forgiveness. Through miracles, you can accept God's forgiveness by extending forgiveness to others. 22. Miracles are associated with fear only because of the fallacious belief that darkness can hide. Man believes that what they cannot see does not exist, and man's physical eyes cannot see in the dark. This is a very primitive solution closing your eyes so that you cannot see. This is a very primitive solution and has led to a denial of the spiritual eye. Believing that darkness can hide by closing your eyes is a very primitive solution and has led to a denial of the spiritual eye. The escape from darkness involves 2 stages. The first stage of the escape from darkness is the recognition that darkness cannot hide. And this step of recognizing that darkness cannot hide, this step usually entails fear. The second stage of escape from darkness involves the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. And this step of recognizing there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could, brings escape from fear. (23) Miracles rearrange perception and place the levels of perception in true perspective. And this heals at all levels, because sickness comes from confusing the levels. (26) When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but you will also understand peace and joy. Your commitment is not yet total, and that is why you still have more to learn than to teach. But when your equilibrium between teaching and learning stabilizes, you will be able to teach as much as you learn, which will give you the proper balance. Meanwhile, remember that no effort is wasted. Because unless you remember that no effort is wasted, you cannot avail yourselves of my efforts, which are limitless. Only eternity is real. So why not use the illusion of time constructively? (24) Miracles enable man to heal the sick and raise the dead. Why? Because man made sickness and death himself, and so man can abolish both sickness and death. You are a miracle. You are a miracle capable of creating in the likeness of your Creator. And everything else is only your own nightmare and does not exist. Because only the creations of light are real. 25. Miracles are part of an interlocking chain of forgiveness, which, when completed, is the atonement. This interlocking chain of forgiveness process works all the time and in all the dimensions of time. 29. I am in charge of the process of atonement, which I undertook to begin. And so when you offer a miracle unto any of my brothers, you are offering miracles unto yourself and me. The reason you come before me is that I do not need miracles for my own healing, but I stand at the end of the healing process in case you fail temporarily. The purpose of my part in the healing plan, in the atonement, is the canceling out of all lacks of love which men could not otherwise correct for themselves. The word, quote, sin should be changed to, quote, lack of love. Because sin is a man-made word with threat connotations, which man made up themselves. No real threat is involved anywhere. And nothing is gained by frightening yourselves. And frightening yourselves is very destructive to do so. (26) Miracles represent freedom from fear. The word atoning really means undoing. The undoing fear is an essential part of the atonement value of miracles. The purpose of the undoing process, the atonement, is to restore everything to you, or rather to restore it to your awareness. You were given everything when you were created, just as everyone was. And when you have been restored to the recognition of your original state, you naturally become part of the healing process yourself for humanity. As you share my inability to tolerate lack of love in yourself and others, you must join the great crusade to correct the lack of love in yourself and others. The slogan for the crusade is listen, learn, and do. Listen to my voice, learn to undo error, and do something to correct it. The first two, listening to my voice and learning to undo error, are not enough. The real members of my party are active workers. The power to work miracles belongs to you. I will provide the opportunities to do them, but you must be ready and willing, since you are already able. Doing the miracles will bring conviction in the ability to do miracles, since conviction really comes through accomplishment. The ability to do miracles is the potential, and the achievement is the miracle's expression, and the atonement, the undoing of fear, is the purpose. (27) A miracle is a universal blessing from God through me to all my brothers and sisters. It is the privilege of the forgiven to forgive. The disciples were specifically told to be physicians of the Lord and to heal others. The disciples were also told to heal themselves, and they were promised that I would never leave them or forsake them. The healing plan for man is the natural profession of the children of God, because the children of God have professed me. The quote, "heaven and earth shall pass away," simply means that heaven and earth will not continue to exist as separate states. My word, which is the resurrection and the life, shall not pass away, because life is eternal. You are the work of God, and God's work is wholly lovable and wholly loving. And wholly lovable and wholly loving is how a man must think of themselves in their heart, because this is what you are. (28) Miracles are a means of organizing different levels of consciousness. Miracles come from the below or subconscious level. Revelations come from the above or superconscious level. The conscious level is in between, and the conscious level reacts to either sub or superconscious impulses in varying ratios. Consciousness is the level which engages in the world and is capable of responding to both levels of consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. Having no impulses from itself and being primarily a mechanism for inducing response, the conscious mind can be very wrong. Revelation induces complete but temporary suspension of doubt and fear. Revelation represents the original form of communication between God and God's souls. And revelation involves an extremely personal sense of closeness to creation, which man tries to find in physical relationships. Physical closeness cannot achieve this revelation, this extremely personal sense of closeness to creation. Physical closeness cannot achieve this. The subconscious impulses properly induce miracles, miracles which are genuinely interpersonal, and miracles result in real closeness to others. This can be misunderstood by a personally willful consciousness as impulses toward physical gratification. Impulses toward an extremely personal sense of closeness to creation can be misunderstood as impulses toward physical gratification. Revelation unites souls directly with God. Miracles unite souls directly with each other. Neither revelation nor miracles emanates from consciousness, but both revelation and miracles are experienced there in the conscious mind. This is essential because consciousness is the state which produces action, though consciousness does not inspire action. Man is free to believe what they choose, and what we choose attest to what we believe. Man is free to believe what he chooses, and what you believe does, and what you choose does attest to what you believe. The deeper levels of your subconscious always contain the impulse to miracles, but you are free to fill your subconscious's more superficial levels, which are closer to consciousness, with the impulses of this world, and to identify yourself with the impulses of the world. You are free to fill your subconscious with the impulses of the world. But the deeper levels of your subconscious always contain the impulses to miracles. Filling the more superficial levels of your consciousness with the impulses of this world and identifying yourself with the impulses of the world results in denying yourself access to the miracle level underneath. In conscious actions, then, your relationships also become superficial, and then miracle-inspired relating becomes impossible. Why? Because you have filled the more superficial levels of your subconscious with the impulses of the world, even though you could have experienced the impulse to miracles, which is at the deeper levels of your subconscious. (29) Miracles are a way of earning release from fear. Revelation induces a state in which fear has already been abolished. Miracles are thus a means, and revelation is an end. In this sense, miracles and revelations work together. Miracles do not depend on revelation. Miracles induce revelation. Revelation is intensely personal, and revelation cannot actually be translated into conscious content at all. That is why any attempt to describe revelation in words is usually incomprehensible. Revelation induces only experience. Miracles, on the other hand, induce interpersonal action. And miracles are more useful now because of their impersonal nature. In this phase of learning, working miracles is more important than revelation because freedom from fear cannot be thrust upon you. (30) Miracles praise God through men. Miracles praise God through men. Miracles praise God by honoring God's creations. Miracles honor God's creations by affirming the perfection of God's creations. Miracles heal because miracles deny body identification, and miracles affirm soul identification, and that's why miracles heal. Miracles deny body identification and affirm soul identification. By perceiving the Spirit, miracles adjust the levels of consciousness and see the levels of consciousness in proper alignment. And the proper alignment of the levels of consciousness places the Spirit at the center, where souls can communicate directly. (31) Miracles should inspire gratitude, not awe. Man should thank God for what they really are. The children of God are very holy, and the miracle honors their holiness. God's creations never lose their holiness, although the holiness of God's creations can be hidden. But the miracle uncovers the holiness of God's creations, and the miracle brings the holiness of God's creations into the light where it belongs. Guiltlessness can never really be hidden in darkness. Holiness can never really be hidden in darkness. But you can deceive yourself about your holiness, your sinlessness. Your deception, your deceiving yourself about your innocence, your holiness, makes you fearful. because you know in your heart that your guilt is an illusion. And you exert enormous efforts to establish your guilt's reality. The miracle sets reality where reality belongs. And eternal reality belongs only to the soul. And the miracle acknowledges only this truth, that eternal reality belongs only to the soul. The miracle thus dispels your illusions about yourself and puts you in communion with yourself and God. (32) The Christ in you inspires all miracles which are really intercessions. Miracles intercede for your guiltlessness, and miracles make your perceptions loving. By placing you beyond the physical laws, miracles raise you into the sphere of celestial order. In this celestial order, you are perfect. The soul never loses its communion with God. And only the mind needs healing, not your soul, which never loses its communion with God. The miracle joins in the plan for healing. By placing your mind in the service of the Spirit. The miracle joins you to love's healing plan by placing your mind in the service of the Spirit. And the miracle placing your mind in the service of the Spirit establishes the proper function of the mind and then corrects the mind's errors. (33) Miracles honor man. Miracles honor you because you are lovable. Miracles dispel illusions about yourself and others, and miracles enable you to see the light in yourself and others. And in this way, miracles correct your errors by freeing you from your own nightmares. Miracles release you from a prison in which you have imprisoned yourself. And by freeing your mind from illusions, from your errors, miracles restore your sanity. Your mind can be possessed by illusions, but your spirit is eternally free. If a mind perceives without love, then that mind perceives an empty shell and that mind is unaware of the spirit within it. But love's healing plan restores the soul to the soul's proper place. And the mind that serves the spirit is invulnerable. Miracles restore the soul to its fullness. By correcting the belief in lack, miracles establish perfect protection. And the strength of the soul leaves no room for intrusions. The forgiven are filled with the soul, and the forgiven forgive in return. It is the duty of the released to release others. The forgiven are the means of love's healing plan for man. Those released by love must join in releasing others. For this is the plan of the healing of man, that those who are released by love join in releasing others. This is the healing plan of man. And so miracles are the way in which minds which serve the Spirit unite with love for the salvation which means the release of all God's creations. Miracles are the way in which minds which serve the Spirit unite with love for the salvation which means the release of all God's creations. Miracles are expressions of love. But it does not follow that miracles will always be effective. I am the only one who can perform miracles indiscriminately because I am the healing plan of man. Now you have a role in the healing plan of man, which I will dictate to you. And so ask me which miracles you should perform. And you asking me which miracles you should perform spares you exhaustion, because you will be acting under direct communication. Your higher mind controlled miracles are part of the healing plan of man. But higher self-guidance is personal and leads to personal release. The impersonal nature of miracles is an essential ingredient in miracles, because the impersonal nature of miracles enables me to control miracles' distribution. Higher self-guidance leads to the highly personal experience of revelation. This is why revelation involves personal choice. A guide does not control, but a guide does direct, leaving the following up to you. The quote, "Lead us not into temptation," means guide us out of our own errors. The quote, "Take up thy cross and follow me," it means recognize your errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance. Remember that error cannot really threaten truth, because truth can always withstand error. Only the error is really vulnerable. And you are free to establish your reality where you see fit. But the right choice is inevitable if you remember this: the soul is in a state of grace forever, and man's reality is only man's soul. Therefore, man is in a state of grace forever. The soul is in a state of grace forever. Your reality is only your soul. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. Now, the healing plan of man undoes all errors in this respect, and this is how the healing plan of man uproots the real source of fear. Whenever God's reassurances are experienced as threat, it is always because you are defending misplaced and misdirected loyalty. And that is what projection always involves: defending misplaced and misdirected loyalty. Error is a lack of love. When you project your lack of love onto others, you do imprison others. But you imprison others only to the extent that you are reinforcing errors that they have already made. And the errors that others have already made, which makes them vulnerable to your lacks of love, this vulnerability makes them vulnerable to the distortions of others, since their own perception of themselves is distorted. The miracle worker can only bless. And the blessings that the miracle workers do undoes the distortions in the miracle worker's mind and frees the miracle worker from prison. (37) Miracles are examples of right thinking. Reality contact at all levels becomes strong and accurate, thus permitting correct delineation of intra- and interpersonal boundaries. As a result, the doer's perceptions are aligned with truth as God created truth. Right thinking is reality contact at all levels, becoming strong and accurate. From miracles, the doer of miracles' perception is aligned with truth as God created truth. "38. A miracle is a correction factor introduced into false thinking by me. And the miracle, once introduced into false thinking by me, the miracle acts as a catalyst, shaking up erroneous perception and reorganizing perception properly." And this reorganizing of your perception properly places you under the healing principle, where your perceptions are healed. Until your perception is reorganized properly by the miracle correction introduced into your false thinking by me, until this has occurred, revelation of the divine order is impossible. The spiritual eye is the mechanism of miracles, because the spiritual eye perceives the truth. What the spiritual eye perceives is true. The spiritual eye perceives both the creations of God and the creations of man. Among the creations of man, the spiritual eye can also separate the true from the false by the spiritual eye's ability to perceive totally rather than selectively. The spiritual eye, thus, becomes the proper instrument for reality testing. Reality testing, which always involves the necessary distinction between the false and the true. "40. The miracle dissolves error, because the spiritual eye identifies error as false or unreal. And this is the same as saying that by perceiving light, darkness automatically disappears. Darkness is lack of light, as sin is lack of love. Darkness has no unique properties of its own. Darkness is just an example of the scarcity fallacy, from which only error can proceed. Truth is always abundant, and those who perceive and acknowledge that they have everything have no need for driven behavior of any kind. "41. The miracle acknowledges all men as your brothers and sisters and mine. The miracle is a way of perceiving the universal mark of God in others. The specialness of God's souls does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion, all my brothers and sisters are special. If any of my brothers or sisters believe that they are deprived of anything, their perception becomes distorted. And when the perception of my brothers and sisters becomes distorted, the whole family of God or the sonship is impaired in their relationships. Ultimately, every member of the family of God must return. And the miracle calls every member of the family of God to return, because the miracle blesses and honors every member of the family of God, even though that member may be absent in spirit. The quote, "God is not mocked," it's not a warning, it's a reassurance on this point. God would be mocked if any of God's creations lacked perfection, lacked innocence. Creation is whole, and the mark of wholeness is holiness. (42) Wholeness is the perceptual content of miracles. And since wholeness is the perceptual content of miracles, that's why miracles correct or atone for the faulty perception of lack anywhere. Here we begin to make the fundamental distinction between miracles and projection. The stimulus must precede the response. And will also determine the kind of response that is evoked. Behavior is response, so that the question, response to what, becomes crucial. Since stimuli are identified through perception, you first perceive the stimulus and then behave accordingly. It follows then that as ye perceive, so shall ye behave. As ye perceive, so shall ye behave. The Golden Rule asks you to behave toward others as you would have them behave toward you. But this means that the perception of both must be accurate. The Golden Rule is the rule for appropriate behavior. But you cannot behave appropriately unless you perceive accurately, because appropriate behavior depends on lack of level confusion. The presence of level confusion, the presence of confusion around cause and effect, always results in variable reality testing, and therefore in variability in behavior appropriateness. Since you and your neighbor are equal members of the same family, as you perceive both you and your neighbors, so will you behave toward yourself and your neighbors. The way to perceive for Golden Rule behavior is to look out from the perception of your own perfection and perceive the perfection of others. The emptiness engendered by fear should be replaced by love, because love and love's absence are in the same dimension, and correction cannot be undertaken except within a dimension. Otherwise, there has been a confusion of levels. Death is a human affirmation of a belief in hate or confusion between cause and effect. That is why the Bible says there is no death. And it's also why I demonstrated that death does not exist. I came to fulfill the law by reinterpreting the law. The law itself, if properly understood, offers only protection to man. It is those who have not yet changed their minds who entered the, quote, hellfire concept into the law. I assure you that I will witness for anyone who lets me, and to whatever extent they permit it. And your witnessing demonstrates your belief and thus strengthens your belief. So those who witness for me are expressing through their miracles that they have abandoned the belief in deprivation in favor of the abundance that they have learned belongs to them.